The rain fell hard on the ruins of New Jakarta. Through his scope, Marcus Chen watched the Craxian soldiers march through the streets below. Their armor gleamed like wet obsidian, and their forearms carried weapons that had turned entire cities to ash. But Marcus kept his breathing steady. One shot. That's all he needed. The invasion had come 3 months ago. The Craxian Empire, rulers of half the galaxy, had finally turned their eyes to Earth. They called themselves the masters of 1,000 worlds, and they expected humanity to bow like all the others. Their ambassador had stood before the United Nations, his voice echoing through translators in every language. "Kneel, and you will serve. Resist, and you will burn." Earth chose to burn. Marcus shifted his position slightly, feeling the cold concrete beneath him. He was the last sniper in his unit, maybe the last one in the whole city. The others had died fighting or fled when the orbital bombardment started. But Marcus stayed. He had nowhere else to go. His family was gone, vaporized in the first wave of attacks. All he had left was his rifle and a promise he'd made to his daughter before she died. "Never kneel, Papa. Promise me." He'd promised. The Craxian patrol moved closer. Marcus could see their leader now, a massive creature with scales that shimmered purple in the rain. Commander Vexthor, according to intercepted communications. He'd personally executed the governor of New Jakarta on live broadcast, making an example for any humans who still thought about fighting. The commander walked with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Marcus lined up his shot. The rain would affect the bullet's trajectory, but he'd trained for this. Years of service in the human defense forces had prepared him for moments like this. His finger rested on the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment. Through his scope, he saw something that made his blood boil. Human prisoners, maybe 30 of them, being marched through the streets. Men, women, and children, all forced to their knees in the mud. The Craxians loved their ceremonies. They would make these people kneel, record it, and broadcast it across human space. Another victory for the Empire. Another world that had learned its place. Commander Vexthor approached the prisoners, his translator broadcasting his words for all to hear. "You see how your soldiers have abandoned you? You see how your leaders have fled? There is no shame in kneeling before your betters. The Craxian Empire offers order. We offer purpose. All we ask is submission." One of the prisoners, an old man with gray hair plastered to his head by the rain, looked up. Even from his position, Marcus could see the defiance in the man's eyes. "We are humans," the old man said, his voice carrying despite the storm. "We kneel to no one." Vexthor's forearms moved in what Marcus had learned was amusement among their kind. Brave words from a defeated species. Your world burns. Your fleets are scattered. What is human pride worth now? "Everything," the old man replied. The commander raised one of his plasma weapons. Marcus knew what would happen next. He'd seen it too many times. The Craxians would execute the defiant one, then give the others another chance to kneel. Most would break. Fear was a powerful tool, but Marcus wouldn't let it happen again. He pulled the trigger. The bullet flew true, cutting through the rain and chaos. It struck Commander Vexthor in what Marcus had identified as a weak spot in their armor, right where the neck met the shoulder. The massive alien stumbled, purple blood mixing with the rain. For a moment, there was silence, except for the storm. Then everything exploded into chaos. The Craxian soldiers opened fire in all directions, their plasma bolts lighting up the ruins. The human prisoners scattered, some running, others throwing themselves flat. Marcus was already moving, sliding back from his position as return fire chewed up the concrete where he'd been lying. He ran through the abandoned building, his boots splashing through puddles of rainwater that had leaked through the broken roof. Behind him, he could hear the Craxians shouting in their harsh language. They would hunt him now. Good. Let them try. Marcus burst through a door onto a fire escape, the metal groaning under his weight. Below, more Craxian soldiers were flooding into the building. He climbed instead, heading for the roof. His rifle bounced against his back as he moved, and he could feel his heart pounding in his chest. But he was smiling. For the first time in months, he was smiling. He'd sent a message. One human had refused to kneel, and he'd made them bleed for it. The roof was slick with rain, but Marcus knew these buildings like the back of his hand. He'd grown up in New Jakarta, played in these streets as a child. The Craxians might have superior technology, but this was his home. He leaped across a narrow gap to the next building, landing hard and rolling to absorb the impact. Plasma fire erupted behind him, turning the spot where he'd been standing into molten slag. Marcus didn't look back. He kept running, using every shortcut and hidden path he knew. The Craxians were strong, but they were also heavy. Their armor and four-armed bodies weren't made for chasing humans through the vertical maze of a ruined city. He dropped through a hole in a roof, landing in what used to be someone's apartment. Family photos still hung on the walls, covered in dust and ash. Marcus paused for just a moment, catching his breath. Through the broken window, he could see Craxian drop ships converging on his position. They were bringing reinforcements. They were taking him seriously now. Good. Marcus checked his ammunition. 20 rounds left, plus 2 magazines in his pack. Not much against an empire that controlled half the galaxy, but every empire had been brought down by someone who refused to kneel. Rome fell. The Mongols fell. Even the mighty British Empire had crumbled. Why should the Craxians be any different? He moved to the window and set up his rifle again. The Craxian soldiers were spreading out below, searching systematically. They moved in perfect formation, covering each other's angles. These weren't the occupation troops he'd been harassing for weeks. These were elite units, brought in specifically to hunt him down. Marcus smiled again. If they were sending their best after one human sniper, what did that say about their confidence? He picked his target carefully. Not the point man. That would be too obvious. He aimed for the communications specialist, identified by the extra equipment on his armor. Without communications, the squad would have to rely on hand signals and shouting. In the rain and chaos, that would slow them down. The shot was perfect. The communications specialist went down, his equipment sparking and smoking. The other Craxians immediately took cover, their weapons sweeping the buildings above them. But Marcus was already moving again. This time, he went down instead of up. The basement levels of New Jakarta were a maze of maintenance tunnels and old subway lines. The Craxians had mapped some of them, but not all. Marcus had spent weeks learning every passage, every hidden door. He splashed through knee-deep water, following a route that would take him away from the main search area. As he moved through the darkness, guided only by the faint light from his rifle's scope, Marcus thought about what he'd started. One shot, one dead commander. It wasn't much in the grand scheme of things. The Craxians still controlled the orbitals. They still had millions of soldiers. Earth was still burning. But Marcus had shown them something important. Humans could still fight. Humans could still make them bleed. And most importantly, humans would never kneel. He emerged from the tunnels 2 kilometers away, in what used to be the financial district. The tall buildings here were mostly rubble now, but they provided good cover. Marcus found a sheltered spot and activated his radio. It was risky. The Craxians could track the signal, but he needed to know if anyone else was out there. "This is Phantom 6, he whispered into the radio, using his old call sign. "Any human forces, please respond." Static. Then, faintly, a voice. "Phantom 6, this is Haven Base. We thought you were dead." Marcus felt relief wash over him. Haven Base was the main resistance hideout, built in the old mining tunnels outside the city. "Still breathing. I just took down a Craxian commander. They're hunting me hard." "You did what?" The voice was incredulous. "Marcus, you crazy bastard, do you know what you've done? Showed them we're not beaten yet." "You've done more than that. The whole comm network is going crazy. The Craxians are pulling units from 3 sectors to hunt you down. And Marcus, the prisoners you saved? They made it to safety. They're spreading the word. A human sniper who refused to kneel and took down a commander. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He hadn't known the prisoners had escaped. That made it worth it, no matter what happened next. Listen, Phantom 6, the voice continued. We've got reports coming in from all over. Paris, London, New York. People are fighting back. They heard about what you did. One sniper standing up to the Empire. It's giving them hope. Hope. Marcus hadn't felt that in a long time. But now, sitting in the ruins of his city with the rain still falling and enemy soldiers hunting him, he felt it stirring in his chest. I need to keep moving, he told the radio. They're tracking me. Marcus, wait. We've got intelligence. The Craxians are planning something big, a ceremony in 3 days. They're bringing in their sector governor to accept Earth's formal surrender. Every human leader they've captured will be there, forced to kneel on live broadcast. Marcus gripped his rifle tighter. Where? The ruins of the UN building. They think it's symbolic. Marcus, it's a trap. They know someone will try to stop it. They want to draw out any remaining resistance and crush it publicly. Then they'll get what they want, Marcus said. One sniper who refuses to kneel. Marcus, no. It's suicide. They'll have hundreds of soldiers there. Energy shields, air support. You can't. Marcus turned off the radio. He knew Haven Base meant well, but they didn't understand. This wasn't about surviving. It wasn't even about winning. It was about sending a message that would echo across the galaxy. The Craxian Empire thought they could break humanity by making them kneel. They thought fear and superior firepower were enough. But they'd forgotten something important, something that Marcus's daughter had understood even as the bombs fell. Sometimes refusing to kneel was victory enough. He spent the rest of the night moving through the city, staying ahead of the search teams. By dawn, the rain had stopped, and Marcus found himself on the roof of an old hotel, watching the sun rise over the ruins of New Jakarta. The city was broken but not dead. He could see smoke rising from hidden camps where survivors gathered. He could hear, faintly, the sound of human voices singing in defiance. The Craxians had expected Earth to fall like all the others. They'd expected humanity to see the futility of resistance and submit. Instead, they'd found something else. A species that would rather die standing than live kneeling. Marcus cleaned his rifle as the sun climbed higher. 3 days until the ceremony. 3 days to plan. 3 days to show the galaxy what it meant to be human. In the distance, a Craxian patrol ship flew past, its scanners sweeping the ruins. Marcus didn't hide. He stood tall on the rooftop, rifle in hand, and watched them pass. Let them see him. Let them know he was still out there. One human sniper had refused to kneel, and that refusal was about to spread like wildfire across the stars. The asteroid field around Sanctuary Station was supposed to be empty. Jake Morrison knew better. His fingers danced over the controls as he guided the Midnight Runner through the debris, each movement precise and calculated. There, he said quietly, pointing to a shadow moving against the stars. Creel Raider, hiding in the asteroid's sensor shadow. Vextor checked his console with all 3 eyes. His purple skin darkened with concern. I count 6 more. It's an ambush. Always is. Jake's voice stayed calm. Remember what I taught you about human combat philosophy? Violence of action, Vextor recited. Speed, surprise, and overwhelming force applied at the decisive point. Good student. Jake flipped a series of switches. The cargo ship's hidden weapon systems came online. They expect a freighter. Let's give them something else. The lead Creel ship broke cover, its sleek form racing toward them. The Creel were pirates, parasites who preyed on shipping lanes. Their ships looked like metal wasps, all angles and aggression. Jake waited. 3 seconds from optimal firing range, 2, 1. He fired everything at once. Missiles, plasma cannons, and something Vextor had never seen before, a human weapon called a railgun that threw solid metal at incredible speed. The lead Creel ship disappeared in a ball of fire, its wingmates scattered, clearly not expecting such firepower from a cargo vessel. "Now," Jake said. Vextor triggered the electronic warfare suite. Human military technology flooded space with false signals. Suddenly, the Creel sensors showed dozens of ships where only one existed. Jake dove the ship straight at the asteroid field. The Creel followed, confused by the ghost signals, firing at shadows. Two collided with each other. Another smashed into a spinning rock. "Humans fight dirty," Vextor observed, watching the chaos. "We fight to win." Jake spun the ship through a gap barely wider than their hull. "Fair fights are for sports. This is survival." The remaining 3 Creel ships regrouped, their captains realizing the deception. They formed up for a coordinated attack. Jake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Hold tight," he warned. He killed the engines. Momentum carried them forward as he spun the ship on its axis. For a moment, they flew backward through space, guns facing their pursuers. The Creel weren't ready for that. Human ships weren't supposed to maneuver like fighters. But Jake had modified the Midnight Runner with military-grade thrusters in unexpected places. He fired. Vextor fired. The railgun spoke with thunder that shook the hull. 2 more Creel ships died in the void. The last raider tried to run. Jake let him go. "Mercy?" Vextor asked. "Messenger," Jake corrected. "Someone needs to tell the other Creel that this shipping lane has teeth now." They cleared the asteroid field and approached Sanctuary Station. It was a human design, ugly and functional. A giant cylinder spinning in space, generating gravity through rotation. "Sarah's going to be pissed," Jake muttered as they docked. "I promised her no more combat runs." Sarah Chen met them at the airlock. She was small, even by human standards, maybe 5 feet tall, with black hair streaked with premature gray. Her left arm was mechanical, military-grade prosthetic that moved with uncanny precision. "Jake Morrison," she said, hands on her hips. "You promised me medical supplies, not a shooting gallery." "Creel jumped us," Jake said. "What was I supposed to do? Let them board?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. Then she noticed Vextor. "And you brought a Zarkon. Wonderful. Do you know how much extra oxygen a 7-foot alien uses?" "Vextor's good people," Jake said. "Vextor, meet Colonel Sarah Chen, former Army Rangers, current pain in my ass." Sarah studied the purple warrior. "You're the one Jake flattened at Omega-7. Heard about that. 3 seconds?" 2.8, Vextor admitted. He was being generous. Something passed between the 2 humans, an understanding that Vextor was beginning to recognize. These weren't just soldiers, they were survivors of humanity's darkest wars. "Come on," Sarah said finally. "Briefing room, we have a problem." The station's briefing room was sparse, functional. A holographic projector showed a star system Vextor didn't recognize. "Kepler 442, Sarah said. "Earth colony, 8,000 civilians, mostly families, scientists, teachers, farmers." "What's the threat?" Jake asked, already studying the display. Sarah's expression hardened. "The Crimson Horde." Vextor's blood ran cold. The Crimson Horde were worse than pirates. They were slavers, taking entire colonies to sell in the dark markets beyond Alliance space. Their leader, a Vorthon named Nexus, was known for brutal efficiency. "Alliance forces?" Jake asked. 3 days away." Sarah brought up tactical data. "The Horde will hit the colony tomorrow. Local defense is 12 security officers with small arms." "Evacuation?" "No ships large enough. The colonists are trapped." Jake leaned back in his chair. Vextor could see him calculating odds, distances, variables. The human's mind worked like a combat computer. "How many Horde ships?" 15. 3 battle cruisers, 12 raiders. Sarah met his eyes. "I know what you're thinking. It's impossible." Seals don't do impossible, Jake said. We do unlikely. This isn't Titan Colony. You're not 25 anymore with a full team. Sarah's mechanical hand clenched. You're one man with a cargo ship. Two men, Vextor interrupted. Both humans looked at him. I stand with Jake. Sarah studied him. A Zarkon with a conscience. Will wonders never cease. I have 40 clan warriors on station, Vextor continued. They would follow me. Against the Crimson Horde? Sarah shook her head. That's suicide. That's hope, Jake corrected. He was already planning, Vextor could tell. Sarah, what else do you have on station? Officially? Nothing. Unofficially? She smiled grimly. Remember those weapon caches we hid after the Titan campaign? You kept them? Never know when you might need military hardware. I've got pulse rifles, body armor, explosives, even a few jetpacks. Jake nodded. Vextor, can your warriors handle human weapons? We can learn. Good. Sarah, remember Operation Fast Break? Her eyes widened. That's insane. We barely survived it with a full platoon. We had 12 hours then. We have 20 now. Jake stood. Get your weapons. Vextor, gather your warriors. We're going to teach the Crimson Horde why humans are the scariest thing in space. 6 hours later, Vextor stood with 43 Zarkon warriors in the station's cargo bay. His clan brothers had come without question, trusting his judgment. Now they watched as Jake and Sarah demonstrated human weapons. This is a pulse rifle, Sarah explained, holding the weapon easily despite its weight. 50 shots per power cell, effective range 800 meters. It'll punch through Horde armor like paper. The Zarkon warriors murmured appreciatively. Their own weapons were powerful but short-ranged. Human military technology emphasized reach and precision. More importantly, Jake added, picking up a strange device, this is a tactical data link. Every warrior will wear one. You'll see what your brothers see, know what they know. Fight as one mind. Vextor understood. Humans couldn't match other species physically, so they used technology to multiply their effectiveness. Information was a weapon. The plan is simple, Jake continued. We're not going to fight 15 ships. We're going to make them fight each other. He activated the hologram, showing the Kepler system. The Horde will drop from hyperspace here, standard slaver approach. They'll demand surrender, give the colony 1 hour to comply. That's our window. For what? Asked Gronak, one of Vextor's lieutenants. Jake smiled that dangerous smile. For the greatest con in military history. He explained. It was audacious, relying on deception, technology, and perfect timing. It was also completely insane. It was perfectly human. Questions? Jake finished. Many, Gronak said, but I trust Vextor. If he follows you, we follow him. The next 14 hours passed in a blur. Zarkon warriors learning human tactics, Sarah modifying equipment for alien physiology, Jake running simulation after simulation, adjusting for every variable. Vextor found himself studying the two humans. They worked with perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's needs. This was what made humans dangerous, not individual strength, but collective competence. You were lovers, Vextor said during a break. It wasn't a question. Sarah glanced at Jake, then nodded. Long time ago, before Titan. What happened? War happened. Her mechanical fingers flexed. Lost my arm. Jake lost his team. We both lost pieces of ourselves we couldn't get back. But you still work together. Some bonds don't break, Jake said, entering with more equipment. They just change shape. Vextor thought about Zarkon mating practices, how his people bonded for life. Perhaps humans weren't so different, just more complex in their connections. Final equipment check in 30 minutes, Jake announced. Then we move. The Midnight Runner led the strange fleet. 1 human cargo ship and 6 Zarkon shuttles, packed with warriors carrying human weapons. David against Goliath, if David had a degree in asymmetric warfare. "Remember," Jake's voice came through the comm system, "timing is everything. Too early and they scatter. Too late and the colony burns." Vextor gripped his pulse rifle, all four hands steady despite the danger ahead. His warriors waited in disciplined silence, transformed by human training from individual fighters into a cohesive unit. "Contact," Sarah announced from her position. 15 Horde ships dropping from hyperspace. Right on schedule. The Crimson Horde arrived like a plague of metal locusts, their ships dark red like dried blood. The largest battlecruiser broadcast its demands. "Colony Kepler 442, you have 1 hour to surrender, resist, and watch your children burn." Jake waited exactly 3 minutes, then triggered the first deception. A massive energy signature bloomed in space, carefully crafted by Sarah's electronic warfare suite. To the Horde sensors, it looked like an Alliance dreadnought dropping from hyperspace. "Crimson Horde vessels," Jake broadcast on Alliance military frequencies, his voice artificially deepened and modulated. "This is Admiral Stone, Earth Defense Command. You are in violation of Treaty 7. Withdraw or be destroyed." The Horde ships hesitated, confused. There should be no Alliance ships here, but their sensors showed a massive warship. Nexus himself responded. "Earth scum, one ship cannot stop the Horde." "One ship?" Jake laughed. "Who said anything about one?" Sarah triggered the second deception. Suddenly, the Horde sensors showed dozens of contacts emerging from hyperspace, an entire Earth fleet appearing from nowhere. It was all lies, electronic phantoms, but the Horde didn't know that. "Vorthan ships," Jake continued, "check your target locks." This was the masterpiece. Sarah had hacked the Horde's friend or foe systems during the confusion. Half their ships now showed as enemies to the other half. "What trickery is this?" Nexus demanded. "No tricks," Jake lied smoothly. "Just superior Earth technology. You have 10 seconds to withdraw." The Horde ships were already turning on each other, confusion spreading through their ranks. Some tried to run. Others opened fire on their own allies, convinced they were enemies. "Now," Jake commanded. The Zarkon shuttles launched from concealment, racing toward the chaos. Vextor led his warriors in boarding actions against the confused Horde vessels. They struck hard and fast, using human tactics: violence of action, speed, surprise, overwhelming force. Vextor's team hit a raider amidships. Shaped charges blew the airlock. Zarkon warriors poured in, pulse rifles chattering. The Horde crew, already panicked by the electronic deceptions, barely fought back. "Bridge secured," Vextor reported. Around him, similar reports came in. The Zarkon warriors were taking ship after ship. But Nexus wasn't stupid. The Vorthan warlord realized the deception and rallied his remaining ships. 5 vessels turned toward the colony, weapons charging. "They're making their run," Sarah warned. Jake had planned for this too. "Execute fast break." The Midnight Runner dove straight at Nexus's battlecruiser. It looked like suicide, a cargo ship charging a warship. But Jake had one more surprise. "Boarding pod away," he announced. A stealth pod, barely bigger than a coffin, shot from the Midnight Runner's belly. Inside, Jake Morrison, former Navy SEAL, carried enough explosives to crack a moon. The pod hit the battlecruiser's hull and burned through. Jake emerged in the enemy ship's corridors, moving with lethal purpose. He had memorized Vorthan ship designs, knew exactly where to go: the engine room, the heart of any vessel. He encountered Horde warriors. They died before they could scream, taken down by precise shots and brutal hand-to-hand combat. A human shouldn't be able to fight Vorthans in close quarters, but Jake Morrison wasn't just any human. He reached the engine room and placed his charges. The Vorthan engineers tried to stop him. Bad decision. Jake left them unconscious but alive, professionals didn't kill unnecessarily. "Charges set," he reported. "Extraction needed." "Incoming," Vextor replied. A Zarkon shuttle swooped in, piloted by Gronak. Jake ran through exploding corridors as his charges detonated in sequence. He leaped through a hull breach as the battlecruiser began to tear itself apart. Gronak caught him perfectly, powerful arms hauling him into the shuttle as Vacuum tried to claim them both. "Crazy human," Gronak muttered. "Crazy works," Jake gasped, catching his breath. Nexus's battlecruiser died spectacularly, its reactor going critical. The remaining Horde ships, leaderless and confused, scattered into hyperspace. The colony was safe. Back on Sanctuary Station, the victory celebration was subdued. Warriors knew the cost of battle, even won battles. Jake sat apart, cleaning his weapons with mechanical precision. 43 Zarkon warriors following a human, Vextor mused, sitting beside him. My ancestors would be ashamed. Why? Because it took being humbled to teach me wisdom. Vextor flexed his 4 arms. We judge by strength. You judge by results. Different kinds of strength, Jake said. Yours breaks walls. Ours breaks wills. Sarah joined them, her mechanical arm whirring softly. Colony sends their thanks. 8,000 people who get to see tomorrow because 3 species work together. The Horde will be back, Vextor warned. Let them come, Jake said quietly. We'll be ready. He looked at his mixed crew, human and Zarkon, soldier and warrior, united by shared danger and mutual respect. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not superior firepower or advanced technology, but the ability to bring others together, to make the weak strong and the strong wise. What now? Vextor asked. Jake stood, shouldering his rifle. Now we teach others what we learned here. The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we choose not to conquer. Time to show them that mercy isn't weakness. He paused. It's the greatest strength of all. Sarah nodded. The Alliance needs to hear about this. A human Zarkon unit that saved a colony? It could change everything. Then we make it official, Jake decided. Multi-species rapid response unit, troubleshooters for colonies in danger. What do we call it? Gronak asked, approaching with other warriors. Jake glanced at his seal tattoo. Easy Day Company, because the only easy day was yesterday, Vextor finished. He understood now. Every challenge made you stronger. Every battle taught new lessons. 3 seconds. That's all it had taken to humble him in a bar. Now those 3 seconds had grown into something greater, an alliance that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of strength, cooperation, and what it meant to be truly dangerous. The Crimson Horde had learned the hard way. Others would learn too. Humans didn't need claws or armor. They had something better. They had the ability to make warriors out of anyone willing to learn. 6 months after Kepler 4042, everything had changed. The Galactic Alliance Council chamber buzzed with tension as Ambassador Threkvar stood before the assembled representatives. The ancient Altarian's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep distress. The Void Hunters have returned, he announced. 3 systems already lost. Our traditional defenses have failed. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Void Hunters were legend, a species from dark space that consumed entire worlds. They had last appeared 500 years ago, stopped only by the sacrifice of an entire fleet. What does Earth propose? Asked the Rigelian delegate, his tone dismissive. Many still saw humans as newcomers, unworthy of serious consideration. Admiral Patricia Hayes, Earth's military representative, stood slowly. She was 60 years old, gray-haired, with eyes that had seen too much war. We propose Easy Day Company, she said simply. Laughter echoed from several delegates. Easy Day Company had become famous, but many saw them as lucky mercenaries, nothing more. 43 Zarkon warriors and 2 humans? The Antaran delegates' shells rattled with amusement. Against the Void Hunters? Admiral Hayes didn't smile. Not anymore. Easy Day Company now includes members from 15 species, 300 operators trained in human combat doctrine. She activated a hologram. Images filled the air. Rigelians in powered armor, Antarans with modified weapons, even a few Altarians carrying human explosives. More importantly, Hayes continued, they've developed tactics specifically for the Void Hunters. Impossible, Threkvar said. No one has fought them and lived to share tactics. Jake Morrison has. Silence fell. Everyone knew that name now. The human who had humbled a Zarkon warrior, saved a colony, and built the most effective multi-species combat unit in the galaxy. He studied the historical records, Hayes explained, found patterns everyone else missed. The Void Hunters aren't invincible. They're just different. Where is Morrison now? Asked the council president. Leading reconnaissance at the edge of dark space. Hayes checked her datapad. His last report indicated. Alarms screamed through the chamber. The massive view screen activated, showing a feed from the warning buoys at the system's edge. Black ships poured from a hole in space, not dozens, hundreds. The Void Hunters had come to the Alliance capital. Jake Morrison gripped the pilot controls as the Midnight Runner dove between streams of dark energy. Behind him, Vextor worked the weapons while Sarah coordinated electronic warfare. They had been tracking the Void Hunter fleet for days, trying to warn the Alliance. They were too late. Easy Day Squadron, form up on me, Jake commanded. 20 ships responded, a mix of human and alien vessels crewed by his trained operators. Boss, we're outnumbered 50-1, Gronak reported from his Zarkon assault craft. Never tell me the odds, Jake replied. Sarah, what do you have on their communications? Working on it. Her fingers flew over the controls. Their language is based on quantum harmonics. Give me 30 seconds. 30 seconds in combat was a lifetime. Void Hunter ships swarmed toward the Alliance capital, their weapons charging with energies that violated physics. All units, execute Pattern Delta, Jake ordered. Easy Day Squadron scattered in perfect coordination. They had drilled this maneuver hundreds of times. Each ship launched decoys, creating a cloud of false targets. The Void Hunters hesitated, their alien minds trying to process the deception. That hesitation cost them. Focused fire from 20 ships concentrated on single targets, overwhelming their shields. 3 Void Hunter vessels exploded in purple flame. Got it, Sarah announced, patching their communications through the translator. Alien voices filled the channel, harsh and resonant. But underneath the alienness, Jake heard something unexpected. Fear. They're afraid, he said. Sarah, boost this signal. Let me talk to them. Jake, that's insane, Vextor warned. No one negotiates with Void Hunters. No one ever tried. Jake activated the communication system. Void Hunter Fleet. This is Commander Morrison of Easy Day Company. We know why you're here. The attack paused. The black ships held position. Weapons still charged but not firing. A different voice answered, deeper and more complex. Human, you cannot know our purpose. You're running, Jake said. Something drove you from dark space, something worse than you. Silence stretched between the stars. In the Alliance Council chamber, delegates watched in stunned disbelief as a human conversed with their ancient enemy. How do you know this? The Void Hunter asked. Your attack patterns. You're not conquering. You're evacuating. Military forces screening civilian ships. Jake had spent months studying every recorded Void Hunter encounter. What's chasing you? The Devourers. The alien voice carried dread even through translation. They consume not just worlds but space itself. We fled rather than face extinction. Jake muted the channel and turned to his crew. Thoughts? Could be a trick, Sarah said. Or the truth, Vextor added. Fear that deep cannot be faked. Jake made a decision that would echo through history. Void Hunter Fleet, I propose a temporary alliance. You need safe passage. We need intelligence about this new threat. The alliance will never accept us. They will if I vouch for you. Jake reopened the channel to the council chamber. Admiral Hayes, you receiving this? We hear you, Morrison. Hayes's voice was carefully neutral. Are you seriously suggesting we ally with the Void Hunters? I'm suggesting we face reality. Something scared them enough to abandon their territory. Do we really want to face it alone? The council erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate attack. Others counseled caution. But Admiral Hayes had learned to trust Jake Morrison's instincts. Morrison, can you guarantee their cooperation? Jake looked at Vextor, remembering a bar on Omega 7, how enemies became allies, how understanding replaced ignorance. I guarantee nothing, Jake said, but I offer possibility. Easy Day Company will take responsibility for them. The decision would be debated for years. In that moment, facing annihilation, the council chose hope over fear. Void Hunter Fleet, the council president announced, you may enter Alliance space under Easy Day Company supervision. Any aggression will be met with lethal force. Understood, the Void Hunter commander replied. We accept Human Morrison's terms. History turned on those words. The integration was not smooth. Void Hunters were nightmare-made flesh to most species, tall, skeletal beings wrapped in shadows that bent light. Their technology operated on principles that hurt to contemplate. But Jake had dealt with the impossible before. He started with small steps, joint training exercises, shared meals, though Void Hunters consumed energy rather than food. Cultural exchanges that revealed surprising similarities. Your species is young, the Void Hunter commander, who called himself Whisper of Stars, told Jake during one session. Yet you understand what others do not. What's that? That strength comes from adaptation. We spent millennia as apex predators. It made us rigid, weak. Whisper's form rippled with what Jake had learned was embarrassment. You humans became strong because everything tried to kill you. Jake thought about human history, endless wars, disasters, challenges that forced adaptation or death. Maybe Earth's violent past had been preparation for this moment. Show me your weapons technology, Jake said. Let's see what human and Void Hunter science can create together. The fusion of technologies produced miracles. Void Hunter phase weapons modified with human targeting systems. Human ships upgraded with shadow drives that slipped between dimensions. Easy Day Company became something unprecedented, a truly integrated multi-species force. Then the Devourers arrived. The first warning came from a Zarkon colony on the rim. The distress signal lasted 12 seconds before cutting off. When scout ships investigated, they found empty space. Not destroyed, gone, as if the star system had never existed. They consume reality itself, Whisper explained to the emergency council. What they touch ceases to be. How do we fight that? Someone asked. Jake stood before the assembled leaders of 50 species. The human who had started as a retired SEAL now commanded respect across the galaxy. The same way humans always have, he said. Together, with everything we've got. The battle plan was insanity on a galactic scale, every species contributing their strengths. Altarian mathematics predicting devourer movements, Zarkon warriors leading ground assaults, human tactics coordinating the chaos, and at the center, Easy Day Company. The Devourers appeared as tears in space, wounds in reality that expanded inexorably. Traditional weapons passed through them without effect. Entire fleets vanished into non-existence. Pattern Omega, Jake commanded from the bridge of the Midnight Runner, now upgraded with technologies from a dozen species. 300 Easy Day operators moved as one. Void Hunter phase technology guided by human precision. Zarkon's strength directed by Earth tactics, a symphony of destruction that had never been seen before. It wasn't enough. The Devourers adapted, learning, growing. Systems fell. Billions died. "We need something new," Sarah said during a desperate strategy session. Half her body was now cybernetic, injuries from battles that pushed human limits. "What about Project Synthesis?" Vextor suggested. He had lost 2 arms fighting Devourers, the limbs simply ceasing to exist where they touched the entities. Jake considered. Project Synthesis was theoretical, a fusion of every species' technology into a single weapon. It had never been tested because the energy requirements would kill the operator. "I'll do it," Jake said. "No," Sarah grabbed his arm. "The neural load alone will kill me." "I know." Jake met her eyes. "Unless someone has a better idea?" Silence answered him. They were out of options, out of time. The Devourers were 3 systems from Earth. The weapon was built in 7 days. Every species contributed. Altarian computation matrices, Void Hunter phase generators, Zarkon power cores, human interfaces that let a single mind control it all. Jake Morrison stood in the weapon's control chamber, neural links connecting him to technologies that spanned the galaxy. His body was already failing, blood vessels rupturing from the strain. "Jake," Vextor's voice came through the comm, "it has been an honor." "The honor was mine, brother." Jake activated the final sequence. Tell them humans were worth believing in." He fired. Reality screamed. The weapon reached across dimensions, touching the source of the Devourers, not their physical forms, but their existence itself. Jake's mind expanded, seeing the universe through 1,000 different perspectives. He understood. The Devourers weren't invaders. They were antibodies, universal forces trying to correct an imbalance. And that imbalance was caused by something specific: isolation, species developing alone, growing rigid in their solitude. The universe was meant for connection, for growth through diversity. Jake Morrison, dying in a chamber of impossible technology, did what humans did best. He adapted. Instead of destruction, he chose communication. The weapon became a bridge, showing the Devourers what the Alliance had become. Former enemies working together, predators protecting prey, unity from diversity. The Devourers paused, considered, and withdrew. They left a message, encoded in the fabric of space itself. Balance restored, growth recognized, unity preserved. Jake Morrison died as the weapon powered down, but his legacy lived. The memorial service brought together species who had been enemies for millennia. Void Hunters stood beside Zarkon warriors. Humans wept alongside aliens they had once feared. "He showed us," Admiral Hayes said at the ceremony, "that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our weapons or our tactics. It was our ability to see potential friends where others saw only enemies." Vextor spoke for the Zarkon. 3 seconds. That is how long it took Jake Morrison to humble me. And in those 3 seconds, he taught me more about strength than centuries of warfare. Whisper of Stars rippled with colors of grief. He feared us, yet offered trust. That courage changed the galaxy. Easy Day Company continued, now a formal alliance institution. Every member wore a small tattoo or marking. The only easy day was yesterday. A reminder that growth came through challenge, strength through unity. Years later, when historians wrote about humanity's impact on the galaxy, they didn't focus on technology or military might. They wrote about a retired Navy SEAL who chose mercy over violence in a bar fight. 3 seconds that changed everything. The galaxy had learned what made humans special, not their physical strength or advanced weapons, but their fundamental belief that anyone could become better, that enemies could become allies, that diversity was strength. And somewhere in the void, the Devourers watched and waited, not as threats, but as guardians. ensuring the balance that Jake Morrison had died to create would endure. The weak had become strong, the strong had become wise, and the galaxy had become whole. All because one human understood that real strength wasn't about winning fights. It was about ending them